Chapter 3, Book 4 of Rookwood. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Paul Curran. Rookwood by William Harrison Ainsworth. Book 4, Chapter 3, A Surprise. Was this well done, Jenny? Captain Macheath. While Turpin and King are walking across the bowling green, we will see what has taken place outside the inn. Tom's presentiments of danger were not, it appeared, without foundation. Scarcely had the ostler brought forth our two highwaymen's steeds, when a post-chaise, escorted by 2 or 3 horsemen, drove furiously up to the door. The sole occupant of the carriage was a lady, whose slight and pretty figure was all that could be distinguished, her face being closely veiled. The landlord, who was busied in casting up Turpin's account, rushed forth at the summons. A word or two passed between him and the horseman, upon which the former's countenance fell. He posted in the direction of the garden, and the horseman instantly dismounted. "We have him now, sure enough," said one of them, a very small man, who looked, in his boots, like buckle equipped for the oaks. "By the powers, I begin to think so," replied the other horseman. "But don't spoil all, Mr. Coates, by being too precipitate." "Never fear that, Mr. Tyrconnel," said Coates, for it was the gallant attorney. "He's sure to come for his mare. That's a trap certain to catch him, Mr. Patterson? With the chief constable of Westminster to back us, the devil's in it if we are not a match for him." "And for Tom King, too," replied the chief constable. "Since his blowen's beached, the game's up with him, too. We've long had an eye upon him, and now we'll have a finger. He's one of your dashing trouts to whom we always give a long line. But we'll land him this time, anyhow. If you look after Dick Turpin, gentlemen, I'll make sure of Tom." "I'd rather you would help us, Mr. Patterson," said Coates. "Never mind Tom King. Another time will do for him." "No such thing," said Patterson. "One way's just as much, for that matter, as t'other. I'll take Tom to myself, and surely you two, with the landlord and ostler, can manage Turpin amongst you." "I don't know that," said Coates, doubtfully. "He's a devil of a fellow to deal with." "Take him quietly," said Patterson. "Draw the chaise out of the way, lad. Take our tits to one side, and place their nags near the door, ostler. Shall you be able to see him, ma'am, where you are?" asked the chief constable, walking to the carriage, and touching his hat to the lady within. Having received a satisfactory nod from the bonnet and veil, he returned to his companions. "And now, gemmen," added he, "let's step aside a little. Don't use your firearms too soon." As if conscious of what was passing around her, and of the danger that awaited her master, Black Bess exhibited so much impatience, and plunged so violently, that it was with difficulty the ostler could hold her. "The devil's in the mare," said he. "What's the matter with her? She was quiet enough a few minutes since, so I stand." Turpin and King, meanwhile, walked quickly through the house, preceded by the host, who conducted them, and not without some inward trepidation, towards the door. Arrived there, each man rushed swiftly to his horse. Dick was in the saddle in an instant, and stamping her foot on the ostler's leg, Black Bess compelled the man, yelling with pain, to quit his hold of the bridle. Tom King was not equally fortunate. Before he could mount his horse, a loud shout was raised, which startled the animal, and caused him to swerve, so that Tom lost his footing in the stirrup, and fell to the ground. He was instantly seized by Patterson, and a struggle commenced, King endeavouring, but in vain, to draw a pistol. "Flip him, Dick! Fire, or I'm taken!" cried King. "Fire, damn you! Why won't you fire?" shouted he, in desperation, still struggling vehemently with Patterson, who was a strong man, and more than a match for a lightweight like King. "I can't," cried Dick. "I shall hit you if I fire." "Take your chance," shouted King. "Is this your friendship?" Thus urged, Turpin fired. The ball ripped up the sleeve of Patterson's coat, but did not wound him. "Again!" cried King. "Shoot him, I say. Don't you hear me? Fire again." Pressed as he was by foes on every side, himself their mark, for both Coates and Tyrconnel had fired upon him, and were now mounting their steeds to give chase, it was impossible that Turpin could take sure aim. Added to which, in the struggle, Patterson and King were each moment changing their relative positions. He, however, would no longer hesitate, but again, at his friend's request, fired. The ball lodged itself in King's breast. He fell at once. At this instant, a shriek was heard from the chaise. The window was thrown open, and her thick veil being drawn aside, the features of a very pretty female, now impressed with terror and contrition, were suddenly exhibited. King fixed his glazing eyes upon her. "Susan!" sighed he, "is it you that I behold?" Yes, 'tis she, sure enough," said Paterson. "You see, ma'am, what you and such like have brought him to. However, you'll lose your reward. He's going fast enough." "Reward!" gasped King. "Reward! Did she betray me?" "Ay, ay, sir," said Paterson. "She blowed the gaff, if it's any consolation to you to know it." "Consolation!" repeated the dying man. "Perfidious! Oh, the prophecy! My best friend! Turpin! I die by his hand!" And vainly striving to raise himself, he fell backwards and expired. Alas, poor Tom! "Mr. Paterson! Mr. Paterson!" cried Coates, "leave the landlord to look after the body of that dying ruffian, and mount with us in the pursuit of the living rascal. Come, sir, quick, mount! Dispatch! You see he is yonder. He seems to hesitate. We shall have him now." "Well, gemmen, I'm ready," said Paterson. "But how the devil came you to let him escape?" "St. Patrick only knows," said Titus. "He's as slippery as an eel, and like a cat, turn him which way you will, he's always sure to alight upon his legs. I wouldn't wonder but we lose him now, after all, though he has such a small start. That mare flies like the wind." "He shall have a tight run for it, at all events," said Paterson, putting spurs into his horse. "I've a good nag under me, and you are neither of you badly mounted. He's only 300 yards before us, and the devil's in it if we can't run him down. It's a £300 job, Mr. Coates, and well worth a race." "You shall have another 100 from me, sir, if you take him," said Coates, urging his steed forward. "Thank you, sir, thank you. Follow my directions, and we'll make sure of him," said the constable. "Gently, gently, not so fast upon the hill. You see he's breathing his horse. All in good time, Mr. Coates, all in good time, sir." And maintaining an equal distance, both parties cantered leisurely up the ascent now called Windmill Hill. We shall now return to Turpin. Aghast at the deed he had accidentally committed, Dick remained for a few moments irresolute. He perceived that King was mortally wounded, and that all attempts at rescue would be fruitless. He perceived, likewise, that Jerry and the Magus had effected their escape from the bowling green, as he could detect their figures stealing along the hedge side. He hesitated no longer. Turning his horse, he galloped slowly off, little heeding the pursuit with which he was threatened. "Every bullet has its billet," said Dick; "but little did I think that I really should turn poor Tom's executioner. To the devil with this rascally snapper," cried he, throwing the pistol over the hedge. "I could never have used it again. 'Tis strange, too, that he should have foretold his own fate. Devilish strange. And then that he should have been betrayed by the very blowen he trusted. That's a lesson, if I wanted any. But trust a woman, not I, the length of my little finger." End of Chapter 3, Book 4.